Hi everybody, it's Kathie. Thanks so much for joining me. Today I have another alternate project to share with you, and we're going to feature the July 2018 Paper Pumpkin Kit. And this will be the second alternate card. So we're going to get started. Here is a quick look at the card that we're going to make. So I think this will agree with all those coffee lovers out there. All right, we're going to use the basket piece, and we're going to remove the two wider sides on that piece. So we're just going to trim that off with my trimmer, and we'll just use the thinner side. So you could probably make 4 coffee cards with this one basket piece. Okay, so we're going to trim back that piece, and I am showing you that I'm cutting it at 3 1/4 inches, but cut it at 3 inches because I do end up cutting it down later in the video. And then we want the bottom part to taper in. So from the little corner of that notch and then about 1/4 inch, mark each side with a ruler and pencil, and then use your trimmer to remove those areas. I think that worked well. It looks pretty even on both sides. The basket piece has like a smooth area that's not embossed. We're going to be using a portion of that for the front of the coffee cup. And the piece measures 1 1/4 inches by 2 1/4 inches. And the top of the coffee cup where those notches stick out, we're just going to trim those back a little bit just to get it a little shorter because it is a bit too long. And then see that piece at the top there? We're going to be using that. And that was a leftover piece from the bottom part of that basket also. And this part here, I'm just using one of those sticker banners just to cover up the words. And we'll just remove the excess. And then there's that little piece again. That's going to be used for the top of the lid, which is 1/2 inch by 2 inches wide. And I did use my corner chomper. So if you have a corner rounder of some sort to round it, just use that. I could have just cut it by hand, but I decided to just use that. I did stick a piece of tape on the back of it just to make sure it doesn't fall off. And now I'm going to glue down that little panel that I made earlier on the front of the coffee cup. And then once we stick that down, we'll just remove the excess. And note that the basket piece has a really shiny, smooth surface. So the ink doesn't stay on it. So if you stamp something on it, it will rub off unless you maybe emboss it. All right, later on in the video, or actually off screen, I do stick it onto a piece of white cardstock just so that that bottom part stops flopping around because it's just a little too floppy for me. All right, moving on to the background. I have a piece of Bermuda Bay, and I'm going to use just the square part of the stamp. And I'm going to stamp just the corners using this stamp. Just make sure that it is in the right orientation. So this is a Bermuda Bay cardstock and also ink. And then we're going to use the stamp that has all the lines. And we're just going to stamp all the way around the edge. And then when you get to the end, I do use a Post-it note just to mask off the end part there. And we'll just do that all around. Just, go slow and get it as even as you can. All right, we have a couple of gaps there. So I'm just going to bring the Post-it note back and just ink up the line stamp and fill in the 2 areas that look blank. So that looks a lot better. And then here's a panel that I did off screen, 3 1/4 inches by 4 1/2. And I used the stitch stamp that came in the kit, and I stamped all around that with soft suede. And we're just going to adhere that on the center of the panel. And then here's the coffee cup. And I'm just showing you that I did stick it on a piece of white cardstock, so it's much more sturdier. I decided to create the sentiment off screen. I used another one of those banner stickers. I did stick it on a white cardstock after I stamped it and just trimmed it out. And now I'm just going to stick it on the front of the coffee cup and remove some of the excess. Next step here is shading the entire coffee cup with soft suede. With the shiny surface, it's not going to take too well. But the areas that are not shiny, just go a little bit lightly because you don't want to add too many dark shadows on this coffee cup. All right, so this looks a bit too plain. I decided that I'm going to crack open this envelope and we'll just remove the sides. And I do cut it down where the crease is. So once I do that, I'm going to cut this piece down to fit inside that white panel. So we're going to cut it down to 2 3/4 inches by 4. And when I'm doing this, I am kind of strategically doing it. I want some red on the top and the bottom, and then I want the sides to be even. So you don't want to have all red on one side and then white on the other side. So you kind of want it to be more uniformed. Before sticking down the plaid panel, make sure that crease is at the very top, and that way when you stick down the coffee cup, it'll cover it up. And now we're just going to center it onto the white panel. And I think that added bit of color looks so much nicer. And here's where I decided to remove that 1/4 inch at the bottom of it, just to shorten it a little bit. And I'm still thinking, because I'm still not too happy with the look, I'm thinking that it needs a flower. All right, so I loaded the back with some dimensionals and I decided that I'm going to add a bow. So I'm using the twine that came in the kit, twirled it around 3 times and just sticking it down with a piece of tape. And then I did pre-tie a little bow and we'll stick that down with a glue dot. And I did fuss with this a lot. I made the bow a little bit smaller. And I also shortened the tails. All right, I think I'm finished fussing with it and we're ready to stick down the coffee cup. And I'm still not happy with it. Something about it. So I was kind of thinking off screen because I did stop the video and then I thought I'm going to try it and it turned out. Here's what I came out with. It's 7/8 by 2 1/4 inches. I did do it a little bit longer, so I did cut it down. It's a white piece of cardstock. I stamped that line stamp and then shaded it in with soft suede and along the edge. And I decided that I'm going to remove the sentiment and add this piece on the front instead. And I will create another sentiment. So because that front part is, or that card material is shiny, I was able to remove it without any issues. So we're going to stick this piece down and I think it looks a lot better. And then I grabbed one of the banners from the kit and I stamped the 4U from the stamp set in soft suede. I did double up the dimensionals on underneath the word 4 and then some running tape underneath the U word just to get it nice and level. Well, that's it for this card. I hope you enjoyed it. Here's a couple of stills of the finished card. Thanks so much for joining me today. Bye for now.